converts or reverts come with, before we come to Islam, we have loans, school loans, credit card debts, home loans, car loans. At what point can we make sadaqah while having these loans, or do we have to, all of these loans have to be paid off before we can actually contribute to anything as sadaqah?
Yasir Qadi?
Okay. Bismillah. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam wa rasulullah. So the question once again is, the sister has some interest loans and she's asking, can she give sadaqah in light of the fact that she does have to pay her loans off? And obviously, the longer she delays the loans, the more interest accrues. Yes, you're allowed to give sadaqah when you have interest loans. It's not haram to give sadaqah at any time. But there is no question that to get out of the sin of interest takes priority. And therefore, you should really try your best to scrounge as much as you can to get rid of the interest off of your back, to pay off the loan as fast as possible. And you don't have to just give sadaqah with money, by the way, right? You can give sadaqah with your time. You can give sadaqah with your smile. Smiling is sadaqah, right? Smile is sadaqah. You all know that, right? You can give sadaqah with, you cook some extra food and just, share it with somebody. So continue to give sadaqah with non-monetary means. But in terms of money, my advice to you, my dear sister, is try your best to get out of the interest loan as fast as possible. That takes priority than giving monetary sadaqah to other people, and Allah knows best.
Thank you. From the brother's side.
Assalamu alaikum. This question is directed to Dr. Yasir Qadi. I know you were cut short of time, so maybe you want to expand on some of these things. I was very interested in your comments regarding giving locally. And so on that specific topic, I know that in my community as well, people always talk about sending money overseas. But when you talk about giving money locally, you end up with two issues. One is, people are very reluctant to identify themselves that I'm here to receive charity. People are very reluctant to identify themselves as being poor, especially in a close-knit community, because they don't want to single themselves out. On the other hand, from a mosque perspective and from a sort of a record-keeping perspective, mosques, especially post 9/11, need to keep a record of who they're giving money to and whether people are qualified. So can you speak about that sort of dichotomy of both giving locally as well as being able to identify who's in need of charity and people being able to keep their privacy so that they're not openly shamed about receiving money?
It's a very good question. I think it was clear, the microphone was on, so I think everybody heard the question. I don't need to repeat it. In response to that, I would say that firstly, every single community and masjid should set aside, every person should set aside a percentage of their personal sadaqah and charity and zakah to give locally. I'm not saying we should never give overseas, but if a person, let's say, has relatives overseas, then send 30%, 40% overseas, send something locally, send something here and there, split it up. You don't have to give all here and all there. And the basic ruling, according to the majority of the madahib, is that really sadaqah and zakah should be given locally. This is based on the hadith of Mu'adh ibn Jabal, that the Prophet ﷺ sent him to Yemen, and he said to him, that's the phrase that I had, that take their zakah, تُؤْخَذُ مِنْ أَغْنِيَائِهِمْ وَتُرَدُّ عَلَى فُقَرَائِهِمْ, that it is taken from their rich and given to their poor. The Prophet didn't say, send it to me over here in Medina. He said, take it from their rich and give it to their poor. So I strongly encourage every Muslim here and every single community leader, every single masjid, that to give some percentage. I understand that many of us have relatives back home. I myself have some extended family that, yes, it is my obligation to try to help out. Their second, third, fourth cousins, of course it is. But a percentage here and a percentage here. Now the question the brother said about recognizing those people who are in need, realize that Allah Azza wa Jalla Himself tells us that the people that you really should give to are those who don't go begging around. لَا يَسْأَلُونَ النَّاسَ إِلْحَافًا. They're not spreading their hands and begging, but they're the ones who يَتَعَفَّف. They have a sense of honor that they're not going to ask, but their circumstances are so dire that their friends, their relatives will know that they are in need. So, what you can do as a community leader is to spread the word. that if you have a family member, if you have a friend whom you know is in dire circumstance, come to us in confidentiality. You have somebody set aside for that, trustworthy brothers. Tell us the situation. We will verify from second-party sources. And it is very possible in this day and age to verify a person's financial circumstance. Even if in Islam you can even have 2 or 3 people testify that yes, we know the brother is in need. Once you know this, then you can give him a gift. You don't have to tell him it's charity. It is not a requirement of zakah that you tell the recipient, this is zakah. Rather, you can just have the friend come and say, look, this is a gift to you. And he doesn't even need to know that it comes from the masjid zakat fund. Right? It is not necessary. So where there's a will, there's a way. And you can have in your accounting books that you have given it to this person who is in need. He doesn't need to know that his name is in the auditing books. He doesn't need to know that. And it's something that you can have something internal and not publicize. Now, obviously, in order to do this perfectly well, you need to make sure you have lawyers and accountants on your side. I'm just giving generic solutions. But where there's a will, there's a way. And from our Sharia perspective, you do not need to tell the recipient that he is getting zakat money. So once you know this, inshallah, you'll find a way to give it to such a person.
Before we go on to the next question, I would ask you, please, this is a very historic event. And we have some very well-endowed speakers here that are trying to answer some very complicated questions. We would ask, please, simmer down for just a little while. You'll have plenty time after this event is over to talk with your neighbor. But please, give them your undivided attention if you would. And we'll go right to a sister.
Assalamu alaikum. My question is, a lot of what we've been talking about in alleviating and addressing poverty is sort of tied to what I would consider a conception of justice. So my question is how, as we as Muslim community members and Muslim activists, how can we situate our struggles to alleviate poverty within the concept of justice, so that not only are we working toward alleviating people's immediate needs, but we're also addressing environmental justice, racial justice, gender justice, and disability justice?
Dr. Quick.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I want to recommend to the conference and to the leaders and community that we start to look at sadaqah, we start to look at giving through the eyes of the imara system. When we are talking about imara with ayn, this is a word which means to build, to conserve, to populate, to grow. And this system has been tried and tested by Muslims in the Ottoman Empire between the 14th to the 19th century. The Imara system is that people are giving, they give their wealth in a trust, waqf, and the trust buys land, or it takes land from people from their inheritance and their trust. And on the land itself, there is a combination of welfare, where soup kitchens are set up, but also commerce. So businesses are set up there as well. And at the center of the imara is the masjid and the madrasa. So in other words, we can actually start to look at our wealth not only just to alleviate immediate poverty, but to actually work toward development. And from this conference, for instance, we could build UFC, United for Change Development Centers. So either we could have a center within our masjid complex, or it could be a separate center. And these centers, eventually, inshallah, can become zones of regeneration. And this is one of the most important areas of justice today in America, because our cities are going down, the poor are getting poorer, and it doesn't really look like, when we look at the political situation, that things are actually going to get better soon. And so there's a great need for economic justice in this part of the world, and we are situated in a position where we have wealthy people who can give toward the development, and then we have skilled people who can give up their time, of their resources, their skills, and so that we actually empower the poor. We start an empowerment program. And as things get worse, la samahallah, as things are getting worse and homeless, are getting, the numbers are rising, Muslims can set up zones of survival zones, regeneration zones. And we need to study this Awqaf Imara system. We were putting it into practice to a certain extent in South Africa. And so there were actual experiments done where we set up a marketplace and a masjid, madrasa, feeding kitchen, all at the same time. So this is a way that we can start to look at, place ourselves, in a very strategic position in the society where justice is needed for the poor, and many of us have extra wealth that can be given toward this. We just need to organize ourselves and use the precedent that was set in the Ottoman system and by other Muslims in other parts of the world.
Alhamdulillah. Very briefly, go right ahead.
One thing that's very important to recognize when our daughters ask a question like this, it brings back to memory the many women-led masajid, most renownedly in China, because somebody did a book on that. But women-led institutions in the Islamic world were everywhere. In Yemen, in Palestine, in Cairo, anywhere you look, there were women-led entities, charitable entities, and masajid. The reason for that, and we don't have time to go into it, but the question that our daughter asked is at the center of the political dynamic that exists in so-called communities. And the masajid, she's asking, how do I work with my Islamic center? How do I bring them to a level of awareness that makes them appreciate the need for my charitable calling, or for my calling for public advocacy? The masajid are honestly not equipped to handle this at the present moment, if we are honest. And rather than shun our daughters and sons away or alienate them, admit to them that we don't have the infrastructure. May Allah bless you, you bring up the awqaf. We don't have an infrastructure for awqaf, at least in America, we don't. We don't think on that level. There's a mindset adjustment and a re-education of our attitude that need to happen. And by the grace of Allah, right now, if we tell you we don't know how to do that, can you explain to us what public advocacy means? That would probably be a more honest approach. And finally, if you are not able, and I promise you I'm not promoting sedition or tafriqa between the Muslims, but if you are not finding reception from your local masjid, engage with a non-Islamic organization that is doing what you're doing. That's how the Prophet ﷺ built alliances with non-Muslims, because the charitable and the advocacy goal is the same. Don't wait for the masjid to catch up with your awareness level. With all due respect and affinity for everyone. Thank you.
Shukran. Let's go to the brothers here.
Thank you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here. I've learned a lot here. I'm not a Muslim. I'm a Mormon. We're the Mohammedans of the West. And I came here today to find out what real Muslims do, what they believe. And I'm very, very impressed with everything that I've learned from you today. I've only had one negative, and that was in the first talk that I heard earlier on. I stood up to have that responded to, and that was about, and it actually fed back from the fantastic talk on poverty of the soul. And I was thinking about the morality. The morality of this group of people has always impressed me. I've had many friends in Scotland who are from the Muslim community. I worked with them for many years. Your women are dressed demurely. They're dressed to cover themselves up, and they do not show off their bodies as people do in Christianity. The eyes are the windows of the soul, and I have seen so many beautiful eyes in here today, and I want you to know that I respect this community, and I know that many of my colleagues in our church respect this community. We also believe in freedom of religion. Freedom of religion is essential. It must be part of the community here. But I have the only concern I had, and that was on the guidance earlier about how people should look at what's coming up in November. I would ask the Muslim people to remember their morality, and particularly this poverty of the soul. And please remember that we have one face that is saying, let's be totally immoral. And it doesn't matter whether it's from one sexual side or the other, but let's be totally immoral, and let's deal with the consequences by aborting the children. This is not Islam. Please think about that. And thank you very much. Everybody that I've spoken today has been welcoming, and I really do congratulate you. I wish you did some more of this. We also, as LDS people, we do conferences too. But if people knew what was in your hearts and what was taught, rather than what the news are reporting on crazy bombers, then they would understand more about religion and how God speaks to all men. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Beautiful comment. Any comments? No? You have a comment?
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that when things it comes from the heart, it will be received from the heart. And everybody from my friends here, the one who spoke, they spoke from their hearts. And the example is the brother here, he expressed himself and he received it in his heart. May Allah have purified our hearts always to see the truth as it is, and that it will never happen unless our heart is really purified. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you very much. Sister, you have the microphone.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Is it on? Yeah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, this is my first event, Muslim event. So jazakumullah khair to everyone who helped create this event. One thing that I was enlightened about was the truth in the United Against Poverty. Coming here, I thought that it would be a lot about charity and helping those who are in need. But I've learned that it is also about our faith and our iman, and that you can be poor in your iman. Understanding that an abundance of our iman and our deen is in marriage, and that half of our deen is marriage. My question is, what does Islam, if Islam says anything about nationalism or tribalism, and what advice you would give to those who want to gain richness in their deen through marriage, and what you would say to them, especially if a parent, if they get denied a blessing because of nationalism and tribalism.
Muhammad Nanawi.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa wala. طبعا الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن الكريم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم, which means we have, all people, we have created you in males and females and made you into tribes and nations so you can get to know the most pious amongst you is the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the most honorable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't believe that Islam came to abolish the feeling of having proud and belonging to a certain tribe or a certain nationality. Like Islam came to say that you ought not to discriminate based on that. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself in the Hasan narration, he says, أنا النبي لا كذب أنا ابن عبد المطلب. If you want it heavenly related, then I am a prophet. And if you want it earthly related, then I am the son of Abd al-Muttalib. ولا فخر وأنا سيد ولد آدم. The point is that in these issues, there's no harm in being from the Ansar or from the Muhajirin, or as an example, as long as you don't take that as a factor that makes you intrinsically better, because what makes you better is, as the ayah is explicit, who's more pious, the positive contribution you have. Now, as far as marriages, as you know, the fuqaha have always stipulated a shart called kafa'a. Kafa'a means common denominators, let's say, with exception with the Maliki fiqh. which almost takes out in the entire kafa'ah. I'm not aware of almost any other, and also maybe the non-Sunni, some non-Sunni groups, but within Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, as a general perspective umbrella, they all say the common denominators are important. And obviously there are implicit evidence from the book and the Sunnah for that. Common denominators are important for making something more successful. Now, if the parents deny that logic, let's say, and again, there's nothing binding to say, I have to believe in that or I don't have to believe in that. The thing is not definitive. It's always something for us to work with each other. I mean, again, when we want to work with our parents, whether, especially for marriage or so, it's not my opinion versus their opinion. Let's be active listeners to what they have to say. No one loves you more than your parents. And no one loves you more, no one wants good for you more than your parents in that sense, from within us here. Therefore, listen to them and engage them rather than disengage them. And let's try to explore things, and let's try to fudge the gaps and finesse the differences as much as we can. And let's always go to the frame of the book and the Sunnah. So this way, it's not my opinion versus your opinion just because of that, merely because of that. No merits to it. But let's go back to the book and see, and the Sunnah, and try to sort of always relate there on Allah.
Very good. Thank you, Muhammad. We have a question here from the brother side.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You want to speak up, please, brother?
Forgive me if my voice sounds shaky. I'm not a good public speaker. My question is for people, this question was asked before, but I wanted to make it more specific. For those communities that don't have programs for community outreach, what would you suggest more specifically for community leaders to engage their own Muslim community to make those changes? Because often, we can give the khutbah, but the community doesn't feel motivated enough. So what can the community leaders do or say, and what practical steps would you suggest that we can begin such initiatives? Jazakumullah khair.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Of course, the khutbah of the Jum'ah or some other khutbahs like in Eid or some other little talks, which is we call them thought or khatira in Ramadan, it will have some benefits, but that's not all the benefits. We have to really look at the Quran and remember that the Quran is a miracle. Everything came in the Quran is a miracle. Every word in the Quran is a miracle. Look at the first word in the Quran, what it is. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. اقرأ, read. Read in the name of your Lord. Read. Then the key for educating the community is through seeking knowledge. And the knowledge here, it's two types. Knowledge, what we call it, is fard ayn, what it is obligatory for every Muslim to seek. There is no excuse here for somebody. Well, you don't know, I don't know how to pray. MashaAllah, and you are in the community and you are Muslims and you're born Muslims and you don't know how to pray. That it's fard ayn, obligatory. Well, I'm not fasting in Ramadan because I don't know that it's fasting in Ramadan I'm supposed to fast. But that's no kidding. This is here is obligatory. It's fard ayn. So here there is no excuse for the leaders of the communities. This is their responsibility in front of Allah and in front of their community here in this dunya and in front of Allah in the hereafter. كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Allah gave him this responsibility. He has to take care of his responsibility. His responsibility as a leader for the community, then he has to educate the community at least with what it's called fard ayn, what it's obligatory for the Muslims to know. Now fard kifaya, of course you have to run some classes in fard kifaya, which is if somebody done it, he will get lots of rewards. If nobody does it, the whole community will be getting a sin. Like what? Janazah, the funeral, somebody died. You're supposed to have some education for ladies, for the sisters and the brothers. So from both. So to learn how to wash the body, how to shroud, how to pray, how to do the burying. This is fard kifaya. We're supposed to know running programs about charity. Like Brother Yasser here, when he start talking about charity and about sadaqah and about, we have to really make those programs more active. encourage the people. We have a lot of poor people. Like what we say, let's have program for Indonesia, let's have program for India. Do we really thought about the poor in our neighborhood? I am from Masjid al-Islam. And mashallah, wallahi, it's the best community, but there is a lot of poor people around. Anybody really talks about that? Anybody, when we collect the zakat, of course, in our mosque we do that. But that's the reason we need a lot of help there. We need a lot of help, so those people, they will be able to maintain their bills. So there is a lot of programs, and that's the responsibilities of the leader. I agree with you 100%. May Allah guide us all as scholars to provide more educational programs for the communities, for the centers, for the institutes, for the mosques, for in every way to our ability. And may Allah guide those leaders who Allah gave them responsibility to fulfill their responsibilities and to design programs to fit the need of the community. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you, brother. Sister, you have the microphone.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Jazakallah khair for all of your work and your inspirational words. I just had a point of clarification. I wanted to make sure that I hadn't misheard for Sheikh Abdullah. When you spoke, I know you didn't like speaking about shaitan, but unfortunately I'm bringing him back up because we do need to know he's there. It's a danger. You spoke about how he can take over our minds, and I just wanted to clarify that and ask if I had heard that properly, and then how does that tie into our own accountability for our actions, if that is the case?
Could you tell me specifically the elaboration on what, because I do not believe I used the verbiage, take over your mind.
Well, maybe you said...
I think you're right. Absolutely. Would you go ahead and restate your question, sister?
Specifically, what would you like clarification on? I don't believe that I used the term take over your mind.
Right, but maybe not that.
I said he can ornament our delusions for us. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have any power over you according to the Quran, so he can only manipulate you through your own feebleness, your own fears, what you're afraid of, shaitan will mess with. That's how he plays with your mind, but I don't think I said that he can command, because he doesn't have that power over you. Does that clarify?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Bless you. All right.
Thank you, sister. We have time for a couple more questions here. Go right ahead, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I had a question for Brother Yasir Qadi. You mentioned that when Allah, He used the words, or He created the words sadaqah and zakah. So I was wondering, like, it wasn't in the Arabic language before. So I was wondering, like, how did the Arabs, or how did the Muslims know what that means? Like, if it's not related to the root of the word.
So the terminology of the Sharia, Allah Azza wa Jal didn't invent words. But the word salah was not known to signify the rituals of prayer until Allah revealed in the Quran that there is something called salah. And the Prophet ﷺ said, that sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. The word zakah did not have the connotation of giving charity until Allah revealed it. The word zakah was in the Arabic language. Allah Azza wa Jal basically derived the term zakah from this verb and signified with it the purification of one's wealth. The word sawm as well means to abstain from. So the Sharia came and said, the actual sawm that we want you to do is to abstain from food and drink and other issues. So every single term that the Sharia came with, it was known to be grammatically something else. And Allah Azza wa Jal used it to signify a concept that has its basis in that verb or in that noun. So the term sadaqah was not known for the Arabs before as charity, before Allah Azza wa Jalla revealed it. How did they know what it meant? Because the Prophet ﷺ clarified. Because the Prophet ﷺ was the walking Quran, he was the encyclopedia. Because whatever he did, he would clarify to the people, like he said, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli." Pray as you see me pray. And he said, "Khudhu anni manasikakum." Take your rites of Hajj from me. So the Prophet ﷺ is the one who clarifies what the Quran is, and that's exactly what Allah says in the Quran, لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ مَا نُزِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ, that your role is to clarify to the people what has been revealed to you.
Thank you.
Sister, you have
If I may, this is really crucial. this is very urgent about the learning of Arabic through the classical text, and I know the gentlemen up here know what I'm talking about. There is a lot of semantic emphasis on in the original books. So when our fuqaha, may Allah bless them, say that there's urfi, mana urfi, wa mana istilahi, according to the usulis, for our modern purpose that can be a little confusing, because Allah is changing the Quran, or changing the Arabic language in the Quran. It's the easiest way to understand it in one sentence. The implications, yani dilala, in Arabic dalala or dilala, is inherent, meaning built into the Quranic Arabic. The Quran used the inherent implication to add another meaning, which is why and how the Arabs understood it instinctively. And this is really all I wanted to add. Because if you understand that it's inherently built into the lafz or the morphological construction, you have no problem. There's so many examples of this. Obviously, sadaqah and sidq. It enchanted the Arabs, the eloquence of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ so much, because they would be in awe when he talks, and he would ask them, what's going on? Why are you looking at me like that? And they said, Subhanallah ya Rasulullah, ma ra'ayna alladhi huwa afsahu mink. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Imam Qadi Iyad in the Shifa, one of my favorites, they're all my favorites, but really, in terms of Arabic implications, an unlettered nomad comes into the majlis of knowledge and he hears a verse from the Quran and he bows. He makes sujood. And they say, no, laysa hadha mawdi'a sujood. They hold him back. Don't make sujood here. This is not one of the places. So the unlettered man surprises the scholars. And he said, قَدْ عَلِمْتُ إِنَّمَا سَجَدْتُ لِفَصَاحَتِهِ. I know it's not a place of prostration. I'm not that ignorant, in parentheses. But I prostrated, I bow for the eloquence. Wallahi, if you appreciate, if we are taught the implications inherent, you will not only bow to the eloquence of every verse, you will bow to the eloquence of every letter in the morphological constructions of the Quran.
Alhamdulillah. I wish we had more time to go into this. We only have time for one more question, and that's going to come from this sister.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
First of all, I want to thank you all for everything that you've said and contributed so far, and especially to Brother Amadou. You deserve the best MC award, mashallah. You're doing a great job. And my comment actually stems from your essay in the booklet on poverty next door, when you say poverty has been as debilitating as any social disease. So I want to apologize because poverty is a very emotional, very emotional topic, and I hope that my question makes sense. But one of the things that brought me here today was my frustration with the issue of poverty, and the fact that I feel that poverty is systematically perpetuated in our country, and it is supported by the institutions that were created to protect the common good, like government and schools and prisons and other places that were here for our protection, but instead I feel that they perpetuate poverty, and they are led by, I think, corporations. But I was wondering, do any of you have any suggestions on how we can deal with poverty, or address the issue, or challenge these institutions? And specifically, do you know of any public policy activities or legislation that as Muslims and as Americans we should be advocating for that would help address this issue on a more institutional level as well as the everyday social level?
I'm going to ask Dr. Quick to handle this question.
Okay, as far as the public policy level, I won't speak about that. But I think it's important for us to begin to recognize the fact that it is crucial for communities to to start to organize, and for people to start to look at themselves as not powerless. That we as communities can actually affect our conditions. And Islam, by its very nature, our system, what we have within our system, the system of awqaf, the system of giving the poor naturally, the rich naturally giving to the poor, and empowerment, that the wealth that is given can be used as a means of empowerment. We have to begin to look at our faith as empowerment. We have been empowered with our aqidah, with our beliefs. We have been empowered with a system of hygiene, with a system of eating, permissible and what is not permissible. We have been empowered by a social system of the building of the family, but we have also been empowered with an economic system and with an ability to produce zones of regeneration. What I'm proposing is United for Change development centers, zones of resurgence, where we can use the wealth within our community to develop a relationship between welfare and commerce. Our business people can help sustain institutions that not only feed the poor for a day, but empower the poor with training. Our belief systems, our prayer, our fasting empowers us as well with a connection to the Creator of the heavens and the earth, but it needs to be spread. Our masjids, our centers need to open their doors. We built for a long time centers, we cocooned ourselves. We wrapped ourselves up in our Islam. Now it is time for us to open the doors, become transparent, and to recognize that the wealth that we have, that the beauty of this religion needs to be shared, and we are going into very serious times in this country. And this is where all communities need to see that we are not powerless. We can do something. And Muslims above all, because we have a connection with the Creator of the heavens and the earth, and we also have a connection with over 26% of the earth's population. So let's look at empowerment from within our faith, work from down up. We don't always have to look from top down. Look at in a circle. Start to look at holistic solutions, and not necessarily solutions that come from the king or the president or the top.
Please join me in thanking my panel.
Excuse me, one second. I'm sorry, I've spoken too much, but there was a specific request for a resource. You asked for a specific resource. Very, very quickly. If you are in New York, this is one of the greatest things about our country, America. There are over 1.6 million charitable organizations, and they're mostly not Muslim. The best resource that I know of that anybody can use, I believe it's online, and is it available at the Foundation Center Library in New York City. If you're from New York, the Foundation Center Library is one of the most phenomenal resources we have in America. It is entirely devoted to charity and public advocacy. They have a resource that's absolutely priceless. It's called the Encyclopedia of Associations. Look it up online. I don't know if it's online, but it should be. Encyclopedia of Associations. Entirely alphabetically, you search poverty. It's under P in the volumes. I don't know how it is online, but you search under topical headings, and it will literally list for you every organization in the country that deals with that topical heading. It gives you the address, the website, the phone number, their annual conference, their budget, their membership, and what they do. And you don't have to be rich. Another gift we have in this country is something called associate or student membership, or somebody who's just interested, or an affiliate. And these people are invaluable resources for us to learn from. I just didn't want to let the opportunity go without mentioning this as an incredible resource for everyone in this room, no matter what you're looking to do, not just about poverty.
Thank you, brother. Imam Zaid Shakir has given this brother the last call right here. So we're going to let him get his question in 10 seconds. And please, a very brief answer, whoever decides to answer this.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The question is to the panel and to all of them. I would like to say to you, Assalamu alaikum. That's the first one. I want to say, how can we as Muslims cause more real change in our community? First, how could we as Muslims cause more real change in our community? How can we stop talking about change and commit ourselves to change? Real change, not superficial, not artificial, but real change. How can we affect real change when we still have a high percentage of racial hatred among ourselves? For example, when I went to California, I traveled, I asked them, I am a traveler, can I stay in your masjid? They said, no, we don't do that anymore. You can go down the block to those other guys. I said, well, who are those other guys? They say, no, we don't allow y'all to stay in this masjids anymore. Who is y'all? I thought I'm a Muslim. 1 second, brother. I got you. So they told me that there's a little place, and when I went there, it was Zayd Shakir Masjid. It was the smallest masjid in Oakland, California, but it was the only place that let you stay there for 2 or 3 days to honor the fear of a traveling man. So why I'm asking all of these, again, our scholars and our leaders, I'm saying, when are we going to stop talking? Because talk is real good. It sounds real good. Let me finish my statement. But when in the ghetto where I come from, like Zayd Shakir can tell you, they said, do or die, Bedford stop. It's still do or die, Bedford stop. It ain't changed. But guess what happened now? Again, the reason they respect us is because they know that you are true to what you say you're true to. So we're true to what we say we're true to. I'm asking us as the Muslim community, when are we going to start to be true to what we say to and do real things? Not just talk about real things, but get real things done.
Somebody want to answer?
Yes, because of the brevity of time, I think it's important for us to go back to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we are looking at change, we are crying for economic change, political change, social change. Allah Azza wa Jalla has told us in Surah Al-Ra'd, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change that which is in themselves. And so the feelings of pride, of superiority, the jealousy, the over-emotionalism, the bias, we have to first begin with our own hearts and then to work out. So that means that everybody needs to make a type of tawbah. We need to make a group repentance and ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to help us, to become vessels of resurgence, vessels of productivity, of positivity for the society. But the whole struggle begins within ourselves. And unless we go to our hearts and go inside of our very beings, we cannot expect to really bring about change. Wallahu.
Please now help me to thank our panelists. We have to close this session out and get on. Thank you very much.
I know it's been a long day, but just by a show of hand, can everybody tell me what an incredible day it's been? Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you everybody for coming out. Appreciate all your support for United for Change. Alhamdulillah, we're here to serve the people, and we are honored that all of you came out today. I wanted to thank all the volunteers. There is an army of volunteers behind the scenes that put this together, and I wanted to thank them, so please give them a round of applause. Couple of quick things. The bazaar is still open, so on your way out, inshallah, you can visit it. Dr. Afia Siddiqui's book and the DVD is also available, inshallah. A couple of quick things. The fundraiser that we had earlier today, alhamdulillah, in a very short amount of time, only half an hour, Imam Zayd was able to raise $70,000. Takbir! Takbir! Takbir. So Jazakallah khair for your generosity. Obviously that money is going to Masjid al-Islam, who are our sponsors, and it will benefit the community and the center that they're trying to build. As Brother Amadou said, United for Change tradition, we call all the speakers up for a final curtain call, and I'm going to do that in no particular order, and please show them your appreciation, inshallah. The first speaker I'd like to call up is Sister Asma Hanif. Takbir. Dr. Fatima Jackson. Takbir. Sister Yasmin Mujahid. Takbir. Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick. Takbir. The one and only Sheikh Yasir Qadi. Takbir. Alhamdulillah, I'd like to thank Chris Hedges, who delivered an incredible talk, mashallah. He had to leave, unfortunately, had to catch a train. He has some meetings in the morning, but Jazakallah khair. Thank you, Chris Hedges. Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. Takbir. Sheikh Hamza Yusuf obviously is the co-founder of Zaytuna College. Inshallah, please visit their site and support the college, inshallah. The co-founder of Zaytuna College and the chairman of United for Change, Imam Zaid Shakir. Come on, people, come on. Woo! Alhamdulillah. Sheikh Muhammad Ninawi. Sheikh Muhammad. Allahu Akbar. Takbir. Sheikh Abdullah Adami. Once again, I'd like to thank him. He had to leave to go back to New York. But Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Abdullah Adami. Sheikh and the Imam of Masjid al-Islam, who are our sponsor, Sheikh Imaduddin Abu Hijla. Takbir. And I would like to thank a few other speakers who actually had to leave and they were here earlier today. Imam Siraj Wahaj, the living legend, Imam Siraj Wahaj. Imam Suhaib Webb, who also had to leave. And Imam Muhammad Majid, who also had to leave. Jazakallah khair. Thank you everybody for coming out. Inshallah, if you want to take a few pictures. And I'm going to call up Dr. Jimmy Jones, who's going to do the closing dua. Jazakallah khair. And we'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bismillah wa alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. One thing that I've learned about working with UFC and Tariq Subhani is that he hates surprises. I mean, he really likes things to go the way they're organized. And I'm going to surprise him by calling my young brother Ashir up here. He's going to do the dua, and I'm just going to say one thing and step back. If you read the Medinian Society at the time of the Prophet ﷺ by Ali Umari, you'll find that the communities of United for Change and the founding community of Masjid al-Islam had three things in common. One, they were multi-generational. Two, they were multicultural. And three, they worked by shura. And this is the community that I came into when I came into Masjid al-Islam. This is the community that Ashir grew up in. And we pray that going forward, this is the kind of community that we'll have. A community that's multicultural, multi-generational, and runs by shura. Having said that, Ashir, where are you?
السلام عليكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا هذا اليوم واجعلنا من العاملين في سبيلك لأجل الفقراء والمساكين يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم ارزق كل من أعطى وكل من أراد أن يعطي ولم يستطع. اللهم ارزقهم رزقا حلالا طيبا. اللهم اجعل جمعنا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من الشر معصوما سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Jazakallah khair. Good night. Drive safely. And inshallah we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.